The way you talk to your clients, the words you choose matter. And we call that messaging. And I think when you're an amazing coach, you actually become an amazing marketer and messenger. And today I'm joined by an awesome guest, Helen. She has helped me fine tune my messaging. And we're going to talk about why your messaging is going to be something that I really think you should be leaning into in 2025. Hello, coaches. Welcome to another episode of the BDC podcast. We're talking about messaging today, why it's critical in 2025. And I can't speak enough wonderful things about our guest who's going to join us today to talk about it. So I want to welcome to the show, Helen Thacker. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Amanda. I'm excited to be here and pour into your audience.
Yeah, I don't really remember how we got connected, but somehow we fell into each other's worlds as online work does. And I was following your content and just falling in love with your journey too, and watching you have some like light bulb moments and watching things pick up for you. And I knew that, we're going to talk about why messaging is so critical as 2025 kicks into high gear. But before we get started, I'd love for you to share how the heck did you get here and become this kind of messaging queen?
Oh, thank you. So I will take that that job title that you just bestowed on me.
You're so welcome.
Always been a word nerd, right? At school, I was always obsessed with English, and languages. And I just found my way to here through a few different six-figure businesses, very kind of strategic and business minded. And what I was doing prior to actually coaching was I was actually had a very successful global team in network marketing. And I was being asked to coach and train many different teams across the company on messaging and social media. I love social media. I love Instagram, and I love making sure that people are getting seen and stood out and standing out for their genius. And especially in that kind of business, it was very much about how do I stand out amongst all the other people in the marketing industry. And so that was really what I was specializing in. That was my zone of genius at the time. And I was becoming known for that. And eventually I decided, well, why am I not doing this just wider? And so I quit my network marketing and started coaching. And gradually I've refined my own messaging and really invested heavily in that. And this is where we're at right now. And I am obsessed with the power of language and each, the micro shifts of individual words and phrases to help you attract and sell. And I just love the power. I love teaching this because it gets such incredible results.
Oh my goodness, so good. I already have like notes I'm writing because it's important. You actually said a couple key things in there that I want to highlight before we even kick off this conversation. Is you said, over time, I've refined my own messaging. And I don't know if you agree with this, but I sometimes see my clients think that messaging has like a finish line, like it's a race. You run underneath the finish line and like, I'm done. And I try to reiterate that I believe that wonderful, masterful coaches actually cue themselves up to be masterful marketers as well, because when you know your client, you can really be an amazing marketer. But can you just speak to why I think you agree, why there's not like a finish line in this whole messaging thing?
Totally agree, Amanda. Yes, it's a constant skill you need to be refining. And, as your business changes, as you perhaps refine what you have inside your offers, the results that you get your clients, the specific processes that you take your clients through to get them those results, and you learn what you love, what you don't love, what you are great at, and what perhaps you could teach, but you shouldn't, and you put to one side. And your messaging needs to reflect all of that. And it needs to speak to the client that you are serving very specifically at that point in your journey. So it is a constant evolution. But once you have the skills and you know what you need to say, how you need to construct your messaging, and what the key kind of sales psychology principles are inside your messaging that you must have to attract and convert those clients, that you can apply to every single stage of your business. And it is a skill. And I look back even on my own messaging. Goodness me, like if I was not investing in my own skill, there'd be something wrong. We all are. And so this time last year, I look at my own messaging and think, wow, it has so changed. And my results have completely reflected that. but it is a constant learning process. But once you know the key principles and you can understand why they're so important, there are some very, very simple, specific core things we need to get into your messaging. Simplicity and specificity are my two middle names. These are the words that I constantly use. Once we have that nailed, we can apply those principles as your messaging, is constantly refining.
Yeah, I love it. One of our like best friends owns a tactical gear company, and their kind of whole motto around their gear is innovate or die.
Love it.
And I actually think that's really, really applicable for messaging is you're evolving, your client is evolving, the industry is evolving. And so what worked a year ago, I mean, it still works to some degree, but we also have to innovate alongside it and work with it and know that our client's growing, the landscape is changing so that we can really still be relevant as we
Mm.
move through different seasons of our business too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I would love for you to define messaging. Like, what do you
Mhm.
see messaging as? What does it do for us in business specifically?
Okay, so here's my personal definition of messaging. I've kind of said this for months and months now. Messaging is everywhere in your business, and it is in every way that you show up in a written or spoken format. And that's it. And that's why messaging is so key. We're all coaches, service providers who, we have to put on our messaging hat. We have to communicate and advertise and market our skills. We cannot avoid knowing how to do this if we want to actually get seen and get our offers filled with our dream clients. And so, you have to be able to understand how to have this messaging expertise. Um, and this is a vital thing, like you just said, going into 2025, how things are absolutely shifting and changing. But it is something that is omnipresent across our entire business. So sales pages, social media content, emails, how you're even showing up on a podcast. I'm very, very intentional about the things that I know that's become ingrained in me now as very like second nature. Even speaking up here, I know what I need to say. And even this is a demonstration of my messaging.
Yeah,
So it's
totally.
everywhere.
Yeah, it's everywhere. And it's even for me, it's how I decide to curate the content of my podcast as the
Yeah.
hostess of a podcast, right? So I just wanted you to give that context because I think sometimes we think messaging and we think social media, but for me
Yeah.
it's bigger than that. Social media for me, like I'm very transparent on the podcast and with my people, like it's not actually my favorite thing. I do it because I think it's necessary and important and I want to get better at it and I want to work smarter and not harder. But for me, it's not as much of a love, as you have it, but it's everywhere. It's the way we talk to our audience 100% across all
Yeah.
platforms, across all types of media. Um, what I would love for you to just share from your perspective, you started kind of going into this, and we talked about this before we hit record, but why at the start of 2025 should we be putting our attention on this skill set even maybe more richly than we have in the past?
Okay, so I don't need to tell you guys that, that messaging, like I've just said, is a skill you must have, but it is the most important skill you have because it filters into everything, whether that is how you create a sales page, whether that is how you construct your offers, how you communicate what you do is through your messaging. And so if you want to sell, you have to know this skill. When you're thinking about even your sales strategy, what's inside a DM that you're going to respond to a client or potential client that finds you, that is your messaging. It's in every single part of your business. And going into 2025, people want mastery. And what happened with my business in 2024, I started this year a very different place than where I am right now. My business has tripled. And the reason being because,
Kudos to you, first
yay,
off, celebrating you.
thank
That's
you.
amazing.
But it is because, firstly, I invested in my messaging. My messaging was good before, but now it's great. Okay. And it's because one of the reasons is because I got very, very specific in communicating my specific zone of genius, my expertise and what I do in the specific way in which I do this, and matching that with what I know my ideal clients want. So positioning what I have as the solution, as the authority in this very specific micro topic of messaging. I before was speaking about all kinds of things. I can help you with lead magnets. I can help you with your sales. I can help you with let's create an offer. All of that was great, but it made me very general. And going into 2025, we have to get very, very dialed into what our mastery is, because people, and this is what your messaging does, and this is what I help my clients achieve, is what you want is for people to find your page or your website or however they find you on a podcast and know instantly that you have this specific thing that they're looking for. Like, what is the mastery that you have? And they're looking for that in 2025. They don't want general. They want like, okay, so I need messaging. I need to add that to my skill set. So I want to go and find someone who has that zone of genius, and that is very, that specific zone of genius. And so in your own messaging, you have to make a decision. What are you excellent at? What are you exceptional at? And you are all exceptional at something. But I know how scary it is when we think, okay, if we are going to zone in on one thing, that means that people are not going to see all the other things that I could do, all my other things that I could help them with. But they're not looking for all the things, they're looking for something specific. So as soon as I dialed in my messaging and got so super clear and created so much authority around messaging, I'm becoming known in the industry for being the person that can help them create messaging that is simple. And this is what I'm going all in on. And because I am, look what's happened to our business. And this is what we need to do. This is what you need to do in 2025. Really make that brave decision to go all in and make your messaging, like work on your messaging so that it is so specifically speaks to your dream ideal client, and they see you, they find you, they're in your DMs asking for the links to your offer straight away.
I love
It's
it.
that simple.
Yeah. I feel like we could stop the podcast right now because this is probably the most important thing that I teach as well. Excuse me. I mean, I'm going to just echo what she said, just to reiterate. This is step one, even in the Framework Builder Lab, is I know, and I think you agree, I have coaches that come to me and they say things like, I help women feel empowered. I help women get healthy. I help whatever general term. And that's great. Like, you're on the road to success. But what's even better is when you discover that actually you don't just help them get healthy. Like, you're a master at a 7-day meal plan that doesn't require any gluten or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Now I know if I'm looking for a gluten-free meal planner because I'm gluten-free and I want gluten-free recipes, I'm like, oh, she's my person. And I think there is fear in getting specific, and also it takes time. So if you're like, I don't know exactly, it's like, go out there and start massaging the process, right? Like, go out there, serve, and I think it kind of reveals itself, because neither you
Mm-hmm.
nor I started where we're at.
No.
And so part of this is just getting specific as you go and really asking yourself, what are you great at? I'm freaking amazing at framework building and curriculum development, and if you were to talk to me about your process, I'd like have it mapped out in my head, right? But it takes time and implementation to figure out. But if we stand still on the sidelines doing nothing, then we're not going to come to terms with what that, specific zone of genius is.
Mm-hmm. I could not agree more. I could not agree more. And you are incredible at what you do, but it's so obvious, it's so obvious, and you've gone all in on that. And that's what we want to do.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so you already started. I would love for you to hit. I mean, I have a couple pain point questions that I really want to hit on, but I know you have a beautiful process. I just want to give a shout out. I actually brought you into my business because I love the work, and I knew that we were at a point where I wanted to kind of delegate social media a little bit more. I wanted to create a recurring pattern of repurposing content, but I wanted to do it in such a way that was speaking more directly to my client and really zoning in on my genius. And I'm with you. I love that you said you're a messaging coach and you have a messaging coach, right? And I
Uh-huh.
feel like I'm not horrible at messaging by any means. I actually love it.
No.
I'm obsessed with it too, and I'm good at it, but I knew I could get better. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's when I brought you in to help me kind of create a process, which has been game changer for us, just the setup. And so just shout out to you for all
Thank
the
you.
support. You're going to help us even more coming up. But I know you taught me some things and some processes, and you already spoke to just the psychology. So for our listeners that are starting from scratch and they're like, okay, I hear you, I need to do a better job. Could you give us like 1 to 2 tangible steps, baby steps that they could take to start like chipping away at messaging and improving their messaging?
Okay, so thank you so much for saying that, Amanda. I just adore working with you. And to start with, I am going to go back to that very first principle, and I know you'll agree with this, and it's some of the work that you do with your own clients, and that is knowing your ideal client. But how? What do we want to say in our messaging? that speaks to our ideal client. What I see 99% of the time when the coaches come to me is that their messaging, they think they're specific, but they're
Totally.
not specific. They are perhaps
Yes.
naming their coach, the person who's their ideal client, or sorry, not their coach, whoever there is, their ideal client. They're putting that in their messaging. They're saying, you are a busy solo entrepreneur mom or something like that. It's like they're naming, it's not enough. Like, there are lots of things that I see coaches do that do not speak to your ideal clients, or they're speaking to the wrong ideal client. And we hear this all the time, like, you're calling in the wrong people. What does that actually mean? Well, what that actually means is literally in the words and phrases that you are using, someone's seeing your page and going, that's me. And if you are putting things into your messaging and attracting oh, that's me, and they're not the people you want to speak to, you need to shift your messaging. And knowing who your ideal client is everything. But what exactly is it that we need to know? And it's rooted in 3 things. Okay, so here's where you start. Firstly, you need to know, how are the problems that your ideal clients have right now in their life at this very specific stage in their journey towards the result that they're going to get. How are those things showing up? Like, how does it appear day to day in their life? And I call these the symptoms. Like, it's not, this is not, I've not invented this phrase. It's just, this is what it is. We need to know, but we need to know specifically, which means walking through the day in the life of your ideal client. Like, what are they experiencing when they sit down at their laptop? They open their laptop and they don't see the DMs that they wish they had, or they haven't got the engagement on their content that they wish they had. Their heart sinks. It's very, very specific. Or if you're perhaps a coach that helps with nutrition and weight loss and fitness and health, how do your clients feel when they wake up in the morning, they step out of bed, and the first thing they do is they pass that full length mirror, and they're there and they're like, oh, feeling disgusted about themselves, and they didn't do the work yesterday or the week before, the month before, to get them to where they want to go. And that emotion, that moment, is what we need to capture in your messaging. But we need to know that those moments that we're talking about are definitely what your specific ideal clients are experiencing. So that's the first thing,
So
the
good.
ways they're showing up. Second thing
Hmm.
is, like, what are they doing? What actions are they taking to try and get over those problems that in your zone of genius is not going to be enough? Or it's the wrong thing. Maybe it's a lack of action. What actions are they taking, or inactions are they're not taking, that it's just not going to get them to where they want to go? And what they do need, obviously, is you. And so it's knowing those things, like, what are they trying? So, for example, I see a lot of my clients will post more. Like, they go into panic mode. I need to get more eyes on my content, so I'm going to post more. I'm going to show up more. I'm going to try another platform. I'm going to network like 24/7. I'm going to invest in lead gen, throw some money at ads, and they're doing all the things. Those things are not the silver bullet. The silver bullet, the answer is obviously coming and learning the messaging
What we're
strategies
talking
and
about. Yeah.
frameworks.
Yeah.
What are the actions they're taking? The first thing is why. And this is where we can bring some empathy into your content. And I think we're going to move on to talk about this a bit more. But the belief they have around, like, why are they trying these things? Like, why do they believe that those things are the answer? And knowing that and putting it into your messaging, along with the other 2 pieces that I've just said, is going to have your clients finding you and seeing that you are speaking specifically to them. The number of times that people say, you were literally inside my head. It was like you were talking to me. And this is how you create that content, where people find you, they look at your content, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I'm going through, what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, what I'm believing. Are you like watching me? It's still like CCTV. And then they're in your DMs, they're looking at your highlights, they're going onto your website, like, let's find out what the offers are. How do I work with you? And they're responding to the links on your page, on your post, to like ask for the offers. And then they're
Yeah.
instantly converting because there's no question that you know them. And that's
Yeah.
where I would start.
So good. Like three simple steps but they just require you to, I think, take some time and commit to the process of asking yourself these questions, right? And I think so many of the times, the work we're talking about right now doesn't feel very sexy. right? Because all these other people are talking about these grandiose strategies that exist. But
Hmm.
I always like to say it's like whipped cream on poop. Like if you are not nailing the messaging, then you're putting whipped cream on a poor
I love
foundation
it.
and
Yeah.
all the other things are not working because the one thing that matters most is like, oh, she's for me or he's for
Mhm.
me or whatever the case is. So,
Yeah,
so amazing.
absolutely.
Okay, I want to actually go back to the first thing. A couple more thoughts before we round out. I want to go back to the first thing because one thing that I really appreciate from you that you helped me really think about is I'm just going to be really transparent about this for your listeners. But as I was, our community has grown, and I was watching. I love studying the behavior of our clients, and we're so results driven, and client success is such a critical value for us. It's really watching like what's the difference of the people that really come in gun ho, get results, quick ROI, while others maybe stay, move at a slower pace. And so I started noticing some things around the behaviors of those different clients. And um, you said to me, are you fully getting the exact clients that you want? And I was like, well, I love all of my clients, but yeah, there's something I'm noticing. And what I started noticing in my own messaging is that I would often speak to things like, um, do you struggle to get started? Do you feel like you have failure to launch? Do you feel like you've been doing the same things and you haven't taken action? And while those things may be true for all of us some degree, what I realized it through our, the questions you probed me with was it was time for me to elevate my messaging a little bit. So I'm going to call it elevating. But I
Hmm.
want to speak more to the person that really is motivated and inspired to create impact. And so she's a little bit different than that. She is a go-getter. She's ambitious, but she's afraid. She's stepping out into this new area of expertise. She cares about what people think about her a lot. She's afraid to do it wrong, right? None of which really refer to inaction. The ideal client hasn't changed. It's the same person, but it's the characteristics and attributes of what she is thinking, feeling, as to your point, when she sits down to sit at her laptop. And so we've started making some of those adjustments in our messaging. I'm going back and refining sales pages right now. And I just wanted to reiterate to the listeners how critical this piece is. Like, think about her. She's not just a woman in an empty nest mother, but like when she gets up in the morning, like what is she thinking? Does she just feel like she wants to crawl on the couch and cry all day because there's nobody in her home anymore? Or is it that she's ready to go out and conquer the world because she has this new sense of freedom, right? Those are very different experiences. So I don't know. I just wanted to reiterate that, and maybe you have something to add, but I feel like this is a really big piece that I personally have spent some time in, but am really having fun with going deeper in right
Mm.
now.
Yeah, you're so right. Who you speak to specifically is all in your messaging. Like I just said earlier, what you literally say is going to have people say, that's me, and therefore my page is for you, and your offers are for me, sorry. And they're going to hit follow versus like, it's not for me, and you're not the coach for me. You're not going to help me because that doesn't resonate. It's so important. This is where knowing your ideal client is absolutely essential, as you know. And, you quite rightly said, what do they specifically want? And I speak a lot about in my messaging when I'm teaching all the frameworks that I have. I only have 5. It's not difficult, but it's like, we've got to know, like, where is that person going? Where is your ideal client? Where do they want to go? And who do they want to be? And what are the tangible results that they want to have? And putting that into your messaging. Simple shifts like going from, do you want to, you just referenced that there in one of the examples that you gave, do you want to kind of, are you going to sit on the sofa and crying and all that kind of thing? Versus you can say things like, I know that you're ambitious and I know you're a go-getter. Like I know you're a high achieving woman. I know you're a high achieving coach. And if you're ready to learn the messaging strategies, blah, 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 it's literally speaking out to who that person is that you want to call in and making sure that that person resonates with that inside your messaging. And those tiny pieces, as is the case with all your messaging, those micro shifts and tweaks make all the difference between selling and not selling. And this is what
Yeah.
I love. This is why I'm so passionate about it, because it is literally the difference between selling and not selling. knowing that you are speaking to your specific ideal client at this specific place in their journey and where do they want to go, who
Yeah.
they are, what their attributes are.
And I want to also say that, and maybe you disagree on this, but I think you're going to be like-minded, is that like messaging isn't a microwave. It can also be more like a crock pot, is that it might take multiple times, right? Or a year even of, there are people, I always say there are voyeurs of your content. I am a content voyeur. Like I probably think to our relationship, I just watched your content. I never commented. I never said anything, on a post. I just sent a message and was like, "Hey, I'm looking to have this. I'm looking to get better at this skill set. How can
Mhm.
I like what's your options like to work
Mhm.
together?"
Yeah.
And there are people that are doing the same for you. And so this is why it's critical that we keep showing up, that we don't have this immediate gratification need. We put out one post and we think we're going to get a flood. We need to build up. They need to feel seen and heard all the time, and they want to know you're reliable and consistent in putting out content that relates to them.
Yeah, absolutely. People are watching, and this is why we should never, you know this already, like vanity metrics mean nothing. I have made thousands off of a post that's had like 7 likes. And
Yeah,
equally, I've
so
made
good.
thousands off a post that had like 300 saves. It doesn't matter. But this is why it's really important to get your bio, like your bio is so critical. Don't play that down. That is your business card. And the top 6 posts on your grid are equally important for when someone finds you. But then your stories are where your warmest audience are. They're watching you. And so your stories should have equal, if not more importance than your grid content. And the beautiful thing about messaging and keeping it simple is that you honestly do not need to be recreating new content all the time. You only need 15 to 20 core topics inside like the core frameworks that I teach. And you can just have that as your content on repeat. You just recycle through all of those pieces because once you've established exactly what is important to say to your ideal clients, that's all you need to say. And you
It's
can put
so
it in your
good.
stories, you can put it in your grid, knowing
Yeah.
again, it's back to know what your ideal clients want, for sure. But I love this. I totally agree with you. Yes, you can absolutely, and I, do have people finding me, and within literally hours, like minutes, they're buying. They're going into my higher ticket offers very, very quickly within like a matter of days. But that's because my messaging is built up. Okay. So they're
Yeah.
seeing everything that I've got. They're looking at all the places and it's
Yeah.
all consistent. But yes, it
So
takes
good.
time. It takes time to build for sure. Don't give
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. Okay, one last thing I want to touch on is what I often hear from our coaches is they struggle with the negative pain point language. They say things like, "Well, I don't want to make them feel bad about themselves. I don't want to like pour salt into the wound." And I'm over here like, well, then they're never going to know you're for them, right? It creates this level of seen and heard and empathy. So, can you speak to why it's important that we actually call out their struggles and pain points in our messaging instead of always being like roses and butterflies,
Yeah.
etc.?
Okay, there is a way to do messaging with pain point messaging in a way that is absolutely non-shaming. And this is something I'm so passionate about. I'm so glad you brought this up. But we are designed as humans, as animals, as mammals to survive. And that means that we are more likely to be drawn to something that is going to solve our problem and save us than something that is actually going to achieve a positive result. It's just the way we're wired. It's
Yeah,
just
basic
human
psychology,
nature.
right?
Exactly.
Pleasure
Science,
seeking, pain avoiding, right?
Exactly. And so, but there is a way to do it. And the way, it's through empathy, like putting empathy into your content. But really, it's about how you educate. And I see all the time people do, 90% of female coaches spend 90% of their time in teaching top tips, tricks, what 3 ways how to do this, how to get that. And that is not how you do educational content. How you can actually bring in the pain points without shame is to do it to what I call re-educating. And it's doing it in such a way that it empowers them to see how they can actually get to the result that they want, because people want the result. We're looking for answers. We're looking for growth in whatever you do, whether you're a life coach, business coach, fitness coach, whatever. And your clients are looking for that. So it's about showing them like the shifting their beliefs from, look, here's what you're doing right now. And I understand, I get it. show the empathy there. I've been there and I definitely have. And this is what we really need to do. These are the shifts I'm going to support you with and show you. And when you do it like that, that's not shaming. That's just empowering people and giving them the answer that they are looking for. And that's what we need to do in our messaging. And it's so possible. But pain point messaging, I don't like that phrase. It's more about shifting people's beliefs, making them, like you
That's
said,
good.
see that they need you and then showing them how and what the
Yeah.
answer is.
Such a good reframe. So it's so critical to shift the beliefs because that's really like if I look at it, that's the biggest boulder in our way, right? And so we have to move the boulder out of the side, to the
Mm-hmm.
side so we can have the opportunity to really create tangible results with our clients. So, oh
Mm-hmm.
my gosh, amazing. So many good nuggets here. I would love for you to share with our audience what your Instagram handle is and
Mm-hmm.
if there's any other way that you feel like would be a great starting point to connect with you, please share all the things.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Maddie. Yeah, just go and connect with me on Instagram. I'm sure you'll link it. It's just my name, Helen Thacker. You can go and find me on Instagram there. Send me a DM, say hi, and I will send you my free PDF, which is a free PDF guide to 2 powerful posts that you can literally use to create content that will really help you attract your clients and get them into your DM straight away. So feel free to go and message me and say hi over there. I would love to connect with you.
Amazing. And of course, we'll put all of her info in the show notes. And, what I also would love to invite you to do is if you're listening right now, grab a screenshot, tag both Helen and I as you listen. We love to have conversation. And if you find that this is a super helpful episode, the one thing that would be awesome is just share it with one person, like in the text, doesn't have to be even on your social, but just send it to a fellow coach expert that you're like, you got to listen to this episode because it's going to be a game changer for you in 2025. So, thank you for spending time with us. I'm so grateful, and I'm so grateful for the work we've done together just to support each other and to talk about, I think, an often overlooked piece of the puzzle that is, demands a lot of attention.
Thank you, Amanda. I appreciate you. It's been so fun.
Awesome.